Alright, the Falcon has arrived. We've had this model built in the studio for around a month now, and I still can't believe that it's actually here. Hello everyone, welcome. Today's video is showcasing an absolutely epic custom LEGO creation. In front of us is the UCCS Millennium Falcon in minifig scale. This is brought to you by the builders Marshall Banana, Flute Disc, and One Man and His Bricks. If there is a single ship ever that didn't need an introduction, this is it. Since 1977, this hunk of junk has evaded, smuggled, and blasted its way through the galaxy, now for decades, making it an icon in both the sci-fi fantasy world as well as pop culture. Even if you don't know Star Wars, chances are you at least know the name Millennium Falcon and can recognize this beautiful, dirty hamburger of a spacecraft. This model is chock full of unique greebling details that etch and speckle their way across the entire surface of the craft. Plus, the top panels can be removed, which then shows a complete interior as well. Needless to say, there is a lot to talk about with this model, and before I jump in, if you ever wanted to build this for yourself, the instructions can be found at brickvault.toys. With an instructions purchase comes a PDF guide for building and a digital parts list for ordering your pieces online. All of our models are hand tested for durability, instructions are tested to make the model easier to build, and parts for the creation are chosen for availability. The Falcon has a variety of different display options, including 2 different kinds of stands. There's the sensor from the sequel trilogy if you want to switch it out, as well as a lighting guide, plus more. If you buy instructions from us, you will be able to build this model in real life. It's also an excellent way to help support us here at the channel and the very talented designers that we work with, like One Man and His Bricks, Flute Disc, and Marshall Banana, who also has the Sand Crawler, Shuttle Tidarium, Slave 1, and Swordfish 2. Okay, let's jump back into the UCCS Millennium Falcon. There's that term again, UCCS. Well, after building this model, we thought that a creation like this needs a special kind of designation, something different from the official LEGO UCS sets. That stands for Ultimate Collector Series. This model and others like it are now considered part of the Ultimate Custom Collector Series. They are built with an emphasis on greater details, proportions, parts, and well, challenges. From afar, you might not see a ton of differences between these two models, but the UCCS Falcon was built entirely different from the ground up. Proportions are a little more accurate with some of the larger shapes of the ship. There is much more variety with surface details, and the interiors are almost not comparable at all in terms of how much more is offered in the custom design. This is not a comparison video with the LEGO set, just thought I'd highlight some of the key contrasts now so I can focus entirely on the singular model as a standalone piece. Let me know what you think about this new designation, by the way, UCCS, in the comments below, and I'm going to knock out some of the basics for you. Minifig scale for the Falcon means big. Over 2.5 feet long, 83 centimeters, nearly 2 feet wide, 58 centimeters, and 8.25 inches high, 21 centimeters. It matches up in size with the rest of the other custom minifig scale models you see flashing by the screen, which is always fun, but there's a lot to show off, so let's jump straight into some of the features. Starting off light, the dish at the top can swivel and tilt. The top and bottom turrets can articulate on 2 different axes as well, and when landed, or I guess while flying too, the ramp on the starboard side of the Falcon can lower down. Now in terms of interaction and features, it's time to go a bit deeper and remove the top panels. There are a variety of pieces that need to be taken off, big and small. Some are held in with tension alone and cleverly wedged down, while others are studded in. It's a small play of movements to get everything off, and you are eventually left with an almost completely open circular interior with separate rooms and walkways. My favorite look for the open interior while on display actually keeps a few of these pieces still on the model, and I consider them chunks that only get removed in order to do a bit of transforming. For example, the top dish gets removed in order to take one of the larger panels off, but I think it looks great when you actually keep it on. I also like having the circular center panels to remain, but they need to be removed if you want to access the gunner seat or see a little bit more of those center walkways. I like that Luke is basically completely surrounded here by the different controls. I don't know about you, but it looks very difficult to operate. You can put these pieces back on, and then lastly, the cockpit interior is awesome, but from afar, I like having the windscreen still attached. So the interior details here are extremely intricate. There are some clever techniques to get the front control consoles in place. The indication of a sliding door in the back works really well, and with some very tight fitting and maybe one partial seat removal, you can get 4 figs in here nice and snug. That's pretty appropriate. There's always a bit of chaos going on in the Falcon cockpit, and with that, the windscreen can go back on, and here is my favorite look for the ship when it's opened up. You get all the great real estate of a full interior with some of the more recognizable bits of the ship still seen from afar. But zooming in now, the corridor from the cockpit has some indication of ribbed detailing, plus there is a stud for a walking fig to stay. One side has a separated compartment full of mechanical detailing, but moving counterclockwise, we pass by 2 storage areas with also seemingly no entrance for either of them. There are a variety of boxes and crates here, and it helps illustrate maybe the smuggling capabilities of this freighter a little bit better, but it could just also be regular storage. Now we've moved into one of the greater beauty areas of the bird. In the back is an engineering station with a seat and some consoles. You can also see the helmet with the blast shield, plus the famed Dejaric table and semicircular seats. Right in the middle of the floor is a hidden compartment with space to smuggle a person if you lift up the hatch, and some fun techniques were used to help create the curving walkways here. You can see also that some of the space behind these areas was filled in with hoses and more technical looking details. Every little area was given some attention on the inside everywhere. Spinning over to the back half, you are greeted first with a shared sleeping quarter, 3 beds bolted into the walls, plus a sink and glass, more technical bits tucked against the small spaces behind the walls, and then there is the hulking hyperdrive right next door in the big room of the rear. It's my favorite bit of internal detailing for the interior. The hoses and mechanical greebles pop really well, plus when the model is lit, it can't help but just pull your eye with the glowing grate. The back wall has an interesting curved series of shapes that mark the beginning of the sublight engines, and the rest of the room is full of more crates, containers, and, well, random items. Once again, there is some very clever building that outlines the semicircular walls that encapsulate the center walkways of the ship, and we're now in the last official room of the model, which I think is a maintenance area, though I'm not entirely sure. It's cramped, full of boxes and parts, with some kind of station in the back that looks like a series of pressurized tanks. Right next to it is the top-down view of the ramp/walkway that we saw earlier. The wall detailing is pretty excellent throughout, and I think the design takes the narrowness of the area into account really well. It still manages to make even the slender spot of the model look interesting. Zooming out, at no point does the design let you see off-color connections or logistical breaks for internal structure. The interior of the Millennium Falcon is built in such a way that when the panels are removed and you're looking at the inside, the Star Wars universe is never actually broken. At no point is the illusion lifted that you are an observer looking at the inside of a spaceship that's completely operational. That's what's so impressive about this model. Okay, let's put it back together. I'm not done. Now that it's all back together, let's take some more pieces off, but this time from the bottom. With 2 different display stands, it's no surprise that the Falcon's feet can come off. It's a pretty simple affair, and the gaps at the bottom are filled in with a combination of plates and small sub-assemblies. Now that I've got it on the first stand and we're focusing more on the outside, I can show off a bit more of the greebles. Right now might be a good time to mention that out of any model that has ever been built at Brick Vault, this one has the highest lot count of them all. That means there are more different kinds of pieces included in this build than anything we've ever put together. Highest diversity of parts, and some of these panning shots of the sides can give you a good idea of what I mean. Areas of the model are symmetrical in the larger shapes, but not necessarily symmetric when you look closely at these details here. There are so many creative techniques, and it blows my mind to see them all so tightly jam-packed. We've stumbled now somewhat naturally onto the curved glowing drive units. The big blue thruster has a base build. In fact, the whole back half of the ship from docking ring to docking ring is built with a strong interlocking, slightly bending layer of small plates. The model is big enough that that bend can wrap around the whole back half and make for an incredibly fluid curve. This allows for seamless integration between the greebled sides and glowing plates. And fun fact here, the plates are actually clear and the color comes from trans blue pieces integrated with the lights behind them. Okay, let's graduate now to the vertical stand, or nearly vertical. The Falcon has an opening in the bottom center, sized to fit the Technic lift arms for either display head, and with 2 people and a little bit of careful handling, the model is now sharply canted in the air. This makes for a pretty dramatic looking swoop. Plus, it gives you a different set of dimensions to play with when looking for a spot to put the build. I love the way the model looks on its side like this. It will most likely be the primary way we choose to pose the Falcon in our studio, and it would be silly to not show you the underbelly now that it's so well exposed. Just because this model and most spaceship models aren't going to be viewed as much from the bottom doesn't mean the detail isn't there. The harsher, flat, boxy shapes that encompass a lot of the landing gear mesh seamlessly with the curved angles that wrap around the sides of the ship. It is an impressive bit of design work that can now be more easily enjoyed with the vertical stand, and of course there's still plenty of smaller details that can be seen as well. Ultimately, this model pushes the level of complexity that can be accumulated in one creation, and it also pushes your skills as a builder. Strength is needed to solidify the frame properly, balance for navigating the tension in the back, lots of dexterity is required for the smaller details, and of course, patience. This is a big model that requires a lot of attention all the way through. It's as expert as a model can get, but the rewards, I think, speak for themselves. We are proud to have such a fantastic model here in the studio and glad to have been able to work with the fantastic designers that made this creation happen. If you want to tackle the UCCS Millennium Falcon as a project for yourself, the instructions can be found at our web store, brickvault.toys, linked in the description below. Let me know what you guys think about this insane creation in the comments, and like always, what other models do you want to see built in the future? Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video, and we'll see you next time at Brick Vault.